Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we are going to go over a couple advanced aiming techniques and also my personal shot process once we get to full draw. So first, I'm going to cover my personal shot process. Typically, when I get to full draw, my main goal is to get that pin on target as quickly as possible. Once my pin hits my target, I am going to change focus away from the pin and focus solely on where I want to hit and executing a good shot. Now, we'll do a couple other videos in the near future covering what a good execution looks like. And we'll briefly cover it in this video. However, it's kind of an in-depth process and I'd like to save that for its own video in itself. So today, we're just gonna talk about where your mind should be focused when you get to full draw. And so to start, we're gonna use this arrow as your fictitious pin, and this target will obviously represent what you're aiming at. Now, when I address a target, I'm gonna first cover something that I see happen with a ton of my clients, and I see it in forums and Facebook groups all the time, and that's people that just tend to lock low on target. And those people that lock low on target, what we're primarily seeing is that you're just focusing too heavily on your pin. When you focus real heavily on your pin instead of where you want to hit, your pin is constantly going to be dropping out of the bottom of the target. Constantly. It's just a never-ending battle of, this is what most people who drop out of the bottom of their target look like. They kind of hover here, and then as soon as they start to execute their shot, they really start focusing on that pin, and then it starts to drop out, and then you'll kind of forget about executing, and then all of a sudden your pin will come up, and then you'll start to execute, and then you'll really heavily focus on that pin, and that pin will start to drop out, and then you'll stop executing. And what it turns into is a race to how fast can I execute this shot? How fast can I get this shot to break while it's in the center? But if we look at other things in life, let's say football, baseball, hockey, you don't aim those when you throw them or make that slap shot into the goal or throw that touchdown pass. You just know that if I stare where I want it to go and I execute properly as I throw that football or that baseball or make that slap shot, that ball or puck is going to go where you wanted it to go because you had 100% of your focus where you wanted that end result to be. So how do we replicate this in archery? It's very, very similar, and it's just as simple as realizing that as humans, you are never, ever, ever going to be able to just hold this pin dead steady in the middle of that target. The sooner you realize that, the easier archery and accuracy is going to become. Now, I do want to say, and I want you guys to be aware that you are probably going to get worse before you get better while doing this. So I recommend doing this in the off season or in your training leading up to using it in the field or on a course or in the woods. So typically when I get to full draw, before I ever even draw, let's say I want to hit dead center here. Before I even draw, 100% of my effort in my focus is going to be right here before I ever even draw. So when I come back to full draw and 100% of my focus is there, 9 times out of 10, my pin is either going to sit somewhere right in here or right in here by the time I get anchored into full draw, because 100% of my focus is here. So if 100% of my focus is here, when I get to full draw, here's my pin and it's just floating. It's just doing its thing. Perfect. Now, remember in my shot process, I said as soon as my pin hits the target, I start executing. What does that look like for me? With a hinge or with a thumb or an index finger. As soon as this pin hits the target, I'm going to start executing that shot. And What I mean by that is as soon as I start pulling and pushing through my shot, and what I mean by that is I'm going to take that front arm and I'm going to just push forward and I'm going to pull back and I'm going to start pulling and pushing until that shot breaks, or with my hinge until it clicks, and then I'm going to go to my finishing section of my hinge shot process. What does that mean though? You know, everybody says push and pull, and where should my focus be? Should it be on my pin? Should it be on the target? Should it be on my execution? Where should my focus be? So for me, my focus, my eyes are going to be burning a hole through wherever I want to hit. In this case, the center of this target. My eyes are just going to be solely focused on right here, but my brain is splitting jobs between 100% focus here and pull, 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 pull. That is what is going on in my brain. My brain is splitting focus between 100% focus here and pull, pull, pull. My brain is not focused on this pin. And the reason why is because if I put too much focus on this pin, we're going to end up with that same process that I talked about earlier, where I start to lock low. I start to really, really lock low on this target. And then my brain starts getting anxiety and doesn't want to execute properly. And I'll stop execution and restart execution and stop execution and start execution. We don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to put this pin on target, start your execution, and then forget about the pin. Just let it do its thing. Let it float, even if it's way out here, even if it's floating out here, even if it's floating over here. Just let it do its thing, because our brain is always going to pull it back to your focal point. It's always going to pull it back to the focal point. So if your focal point is right here, and you're 100% focused on that point and this pin is floating out here, it's always going to pull back to center. It's always going to come back to center. So as I'm executing that well-executed shot and really focusing on the center of this target, my pin is always pulling back to center. And sometimes it's pulling back to center so fast that our brains can't even comprehend it. And what you're seeing is you're just seeing this pin over here. But in reality, what it's doing is it's like this. But all we're seeing is this, because we're seeing it in our peripheral, because all of our focus is here and this pin is out of focus. Now, some archers really like to focus on the pin and staring a hole into that pin and having your pin in focus and your target blurry and focusing on where you want to hit. For me, I find it 10 times easier at a wider variety of ranges to just focus on where I want to hit. Now, the next part of this that is very, very important is to get a shot cadence down. You don't want to be sitting at full draw for extended periods of time, and you also don't want all your shots breaking super, super quickly either. So it's very, very important that you figure out a shot sequence for yourself that works, that is going to have your shots break in a consistent time. So what that means is whether you're shooting 20 yards or 120 yards, your shot should be breaking from the time that you get to anchor and you start execution. Your shot should be breaking in the same amount of time, whether it's 80, 90, 100, 120, or 20 yards. You shouldn't take longer for your shot to develop and to break at 120 than you do at 20 yards. They should be breaking at the same amount of time, because you're just going to put your focus right here, and once your pin hits that target and you start executing, 100% of focus is going here, and you're just going to pull, 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 pull until that shot breaks. I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds like I'm being repetitive, but it's really just that simple as staring a hole through your target and executing a good shot with good follow through and good form that is consistent shot to shot to shot. If you implement this into your practice regimen, I promise you it may seem like you're going to get worse in the beginning, but as you get used to just trusting that float and letting that pin float and just staring a hole through where you want to hit, you will find the longevity of your archery career. You will have a better in more consistent, accurate groups downrange and less flyers, especially at those longer distances. This will help you become a more proficient archer. With that being said, that's the end of today's video. Like I said, we are going to do a couple other videos coming up on, specifics of shot execution, from anchor to follow through. Follow through for me is a huge thing. If my follow through is lacking even just a little bit, I tend to hit a little left or a little right out to 70 and 80 and 90 yards. So follow through for me has always been an important one, and I'd like to cover that in a video for you guys. But this is a lot of information to take in and something for you guys to think about going into your next practice session and understanding it. Now, one other thing I do want to mention, like I said, you might get worse before you get better, but some people, this may only take 5 shots of doing this before you really start seeing the benefits. And some people, it might take 500 shots. Don't give up. Just keep going and keep drilling it into your brain to trust that float and just execute a good, clean shot every single time. Now, some of you guys, a little extra tidbit here, some of you guys might ask, what do you do in a hunting situation? If I am in a hunting situation and I start executing and that deer goes into a position where I can't shoot him, I'm going to restart from the very beginning of my process. Let's say I get to full draw and I'm executing, shot hasn't broke, and that deer walks behind a tree. I'm going to either relax and go back to a starting position, pull away from my face, wait for that deer to come back up, and now I'm going to re-anchor, put my pin on the target, let it float, and just pull, and execute until that shot breaks. In no situation do you ever need to force a shot on an animal. If you're having to force a shot on an animal, you're probably making a shot that you shouldn't be making, and that's how mistakes happen. Don't force it, don't rush it, go through your process, go through your steps, and you guys will find way more success out in the field. With that being said, that is the actual end of today's video, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Peace.